The Qianfan constellation, also known as Thousand Sails or the G60 constellation, is China's primary commercial competitor in the global low Earth orbit broadband race. Designed as a direct competitor to systems like Starlink, it aims to deploy a network of over 15,000 satellites, bringing China's broadband internet to all four corners of the world. The project's name and strategy are deeply tied to the G60 Science and Technology Innovation Corridor, a high-tech industrial belt stretching from Shanghai along the G60 Expressway, where most of the companies involved originate. Unlike the fully state-driven Go1 national network constellation, Qianfan operates on a public-private collaboration model. It integrates regional government support, private aerospace firms, including the lead developer Shanghai Spacecom Satellite Technology, but backed by state giants like the China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation and research institutes along the corridor. Shanghai Spacecom Satellite Technology Company is a company backed by the Shanghai municipal government, established in 2018. In 2021, during the 4th China International Import Expo, the Yangtze River Delta G60 Science and Technology Innovation Corridor unveiled the G60 Star Chain Plan. The first phase of the plan called for launching 1,296 satellites with the long-term goal of building a network of over 15,000 low Earth orbit broadband multimedia satellites. In February 2024, the company raised approximately $933 million to support the construction of the low Earth orbit constellation. Just a few months later, on August 2024, a Long March 6 rocket from CASC lifted off from the Taiyuan Satellite Launch Center, successfully deploying the first 18 commercial satellites of the Qianfan constellation into their predetermined orbits, marking the start of the constellation. As of October 2025, the Qianfan constellation has launched a total of 108 satellites, excluding 4 test satellites launched before 2024. Compared to Starlink's 550-kilometer orbit, Qianfan's 800-kilometer polar orbit at 89-degree inclination positions it as a constellation of choice in extreme latitudes. Their positioning ensures consistent coverage over Arctic shipping lanes and Antarctic research stations, regions normally ignored by traditional providers. Qianfan's higher altitude reduces atmospheric drag, enabling over 7-year lifespans versus Starlink's, which lasts less than 5 years. Yet, this high perch has its disadvantages. Signals have to travel greater distances than Starlink's, creating a 17-millisecond latency that precludes real-time applications like cloud gaming or high-frequency trading. The Qianfan satellites are characterized by a lightweight, compact design. Each satellite of this initial generation has a mass of approximately 300 kilograms, compared to Starlink's 800 kilograms. Once deployed, their radar cross-section is estimated to be about 13.2 square meters, classifying them as large objects in space. The satellite's communications payload operates in Ku band, Q band, and V bands. Utilizing the higher frequency bands is key to achieving the high theoretical capacity required for broadband services. However, this comes with significant engineering challenges. Signals in these bands are highly susceptible to atmospheric attenuation, particularly rain fade, where heavy precipitation can cause severe signal degradation and loss. This requires sophisticated ground station design and signal processing to ensure reliable service. China is positioning its low Earth orbit broadband constellations like Go1 and Qianfan as formidable geo-economic competitors to American providers like Starlink and Amazon. In Africa, where nations are often wary of Western interference, conditionalities, and sanctions, China has established itself as the continent's primary space partner through deep, tangible projects. It has built and launched the first communication satellites for nations including Nigeria, Algeria, and Ethiopia, often with favorable financing. Beyond the satellites, China constructs the necessary ground infrastructure, such as monitoring stations in Namibia and the critical control facilities for Ethiopian satellites. Chinese technology firms, particularly Huawei, have established a significant foundation across Africa by deploying 4G and 5G telecoms base stations. This extensive terrestrial network created natural and strategic on-ramp for introducing complementary Chinese satellite broadband services. For many African governments who want to hedge, especially those with strained relationships with Western powers or facing international scrutiny, this integrated Chinese offer is particularly compelling. It presents a path towards a sovereign broadband ecosystem, a digital infrastructure where they maintain greater control over local internet access and data flows, reducing the dependence on American tech billionaires and influence of Western governments, but leaves them vulnerable to Chinese spying. The Chinese strategy capitalizes on perceived vulnerabilities in the American approach. US providers can be hampered by local regulatory hurdles as seen with Starlink's licensing fight with the South African government. More significantly, the overt use of Starlink as a tool of US foreign policy, notably in Ukraine, reinforces a perception in hedging capitals that adopting American satellite infrastructure might inadvertently align them with Washington's geopolitical agendas or make them victim of it in a future date. For South American nations historically wary of US interference, China positions itself as a strategic alternative, offering partnerships that help these countries balance geopolitical influence. This model was established with projects like the two-pack Qatari communication satellite for Bolivia, which China helped finance, build, and launch. On a more strategically significant scale, China constructed and operates a deep space radar facility in Argentina's Neuquén province. These foundational space collaborations create a natural pathway for the integration of Chinese broadband satellite services. If offered at competitive prices, such services could be seamlessly added to these existing framework corporations, further extending China's technological and strategic footprint in the region. China, by officially championing a doctrine of non-interference and coupling its space offers with aligned diplomatic rhetoric, presents its service as a politically safer alternative for nations prioritizing sovereignty and balanced foreign relations. This is particularly compelling for nations in regions like ASEAN and the Middle East, where governments strategically hedge between global powers or face isolation from Western sanctions. For these countries, China presents itself as a reliable second option or sometimes the only available partner. The appeal is multifaceted. It often includes more competitive pricing, an absence of political conditionalities, and a tangible technological transfer, such as helping establish local space industries to reduce long-term dependency. A prime example is the satellite assembly and testing plant China helped build in Egypt, which serves Egypt's national projects and other African clients. These space partnerships are frequently bundled with broader digital infrastructure deals from Chinese giants like Huawei, creating a comprehensive, integrated, and strategic attractive partnership package that is difficult for hedging nations to refuse. The deployment of global satellite internet constellations is poised to create a transformative ripple effect, directly improving the quality of life for millions of remote and underserved regions. For a country like Indonesia, with its thousands of scattered islands, satellite internet is the only viable method to connect remote communities, support maritime industries, and enable telemedicine and education without constructing underwater cable networks. Similarly, in nations with expansive deserts like Mali and Chad in the Sahara, or Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan with their sparse populations, a satellite network can provide a blanket coverage for nomadic peoples, critical mining operations, and security patrols along remote borders. In the dense jungles of the Amazon basin in South America, isolated villages and indigenous communities can gain access to the global information grid. For countries with difficult topography like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and those in the mountainous regions of Central Asia, satellites bypass the need to build infrastructure over rugged peaks, delivering connectivity directly to valleys and highland settlements. The Qianfan constellation has already demonstrated its capability through successful tests, providing stable video streaming in Malaysia, a nation with a similar mix of peninsular and island geography. It has also conducted demonstrations in the vast open landscapes of Kazakhstan. Furthermore, Qianfan has secured a commercial partnership to provide services in Brazil, targeting its remote regions, and is working with Airbus to develop in-flight connectivity for Chinese carriers. The decision to go for a large number of satellites like Starlink Instead of opting for smaller-sized constellations like Amazon Kuiper or Russia's Bureau 1440 brings its own challenges. China is far behind in its plans to deploy the giant constellations of Qianfan. To achieve this goal, they will have to launch more than 30 satellites per month. SpaceX's reusable Falcon 9 rocket launches about 30 satellites at a time and flies an average of twice a week. Without reusable rockets, you have to create a new rocket for each time you launch satellites into orbit. Achieving 15,000 satellites requires 250 plus launches, incurring more than $10 billion in launch costs alone. China's other constellation, Guowang, also needs rockets to launch 13,000 satellites into orbit, which will make rocket availability even more limited. The plan was for Qianfan to reach 648 satellites in orbit for regional coverage by the end of 2025, and their number expanded to 1,296 devices for global communications by 2027. However, its deployment has encountered significant technical hurdles. Early launches suffered significant setbacks, including an upper stage breakup that created substantial orbital debris and issues with satellites failing to reach their operational orbits. These problems, combined with reported difficulties securing sufficient launch vehicles, have delayed the project. By late 2025, it had more than 100 satellites in orbit, putting it roughly on par with Guowang's deployment numbers but behind its own ambitious schedule. For governments, LEO technology is a powerful tool for broadband delivery. In the realm of education, it allows a teacher in a remote Amazonian village in Brazil to conduct interactive video lessons with specialists from major cities, while students in mountainous regions of Bangladesh or on outer islands of Indonesia gain access to digital libraries and standardized curricula. In healthcare, telemedicine becomes a reality. A clinic in rural Kenya can transmit diagnostic images for remote analysis, or a health worker in Lesotho can manage vaccine refrigerator temperatures in real time. E-governance will reach the last mile, enabling citizens in desert communities of Chad or Mali to apply for official documents, access social services, and participate in civic process online. This connectivity simultaneously unlocks immense economic potential by enabling private sector innovation. Financial inclusion will expand significantly as farmers in Ghanaian villages or shopkeepers in remote Sri Lanka will use mobile payments for digital banking, microloans, and insurance via platforms similar to Kenya's pioneering M-Pesa. E-commerce will allow an artisan in Uzbekistan or a coffee grower in Peruvian highlands to access global markets, obtaining fairer prices through real-time commodity data and managed logistics. For agriculture, farmers across Kazakhstan and South America will be able to utilize connected sensors for precision irrigation, monitor crop health via satellite imagery, and receive hyper-local weather alerts, directly boosting productivity and climate resilience. On the personal level, this technology will help bridge profound social distances between the capitals and their remote territories. Critically, it empowers communities to organize, share their perspectives, and participate in national conversations, strengthening the social fabric. Citizens from remote islands and villages will be able to join into social media discussions concerning national issues, culture, and the latest trends. It will enable families separated by migration to maintain close contacts through high-quality video calls. The net effect will be a measurable and holistic improvement in quality of life. Reliable internet in the village will evolve from a luxury to a utility, as functional as electricity. This will lead to better health outcomes through timely medical access and enhanced lifetime earnings through education and stronger, more resilient communities connected to the knowledge and opportunities of the wider world.